All right, everyone. It lives. There's our motor spin, all of our control surfaces. Good shape so far. I want to show you a couple things. I kind of have my receiver tucked in there like we talked about. You can see the little blue LED maybe. These wires are hanging out the back for a reason. I'll show you those in a second. But I have my receiver antenna kind of coming up here, up through the side. It'll be along the sidewall there. I have my batteries going to sit. This is the battery size we're going to use for these planes. Battery's going to sit somewhere right in here. I tested already with the center of gravity. With it all the way back, it's too tail heavy, and a little bit forward was too nose heavy, so it'll be somewhere in between there. That's where our battery's going to sit there and kind of tuck that in. That'll be, like that with our little hatches on top. Okay. As far as cable management goes, we're going to have our servo leads, in my case running this way and that way kind of across the plane. We want to keep them out of the prop circle most of all, right? So what I'm going to do with mine is just grab my hot glue gun, okay? For example, on this one here, I'm going to have a little dab of glue right there. Okay, and I can take my spare piece of foam and use it to kind of press the wire, the servo wire into the glue so I don't burn my fingers. Once it's pressed in there a decent amount, the glue will dry and it should just hold its position right there. You kind of do a couple little glue dots, one here, maybe one here, and one down here so it doesn't get flapping back into the prop there. Same thing for these other servos. Make sure you get enough. I need to get some more slack on this one actually so I can route it a little bit better right here. We'll glue all those down and make sure they're not going to get into the prop, right? Okay, and then on the other side, I wanted to show you with the motor wires. I'm going to be tucking those down in there, but first I need to make sure that my motor direction is correct for my prop. I have props of both directions that I'm passing out in class, so you may have one that's like this, you may have one of the opposite type that's meant to spin the other direction. If we look at the prop like a wing, okay, let's kind of turn it this way, and hopefully you can see, there we go, that this is the leading edge of the prop. This is what's meant to go forward. If it were a wing, it would be flying this way, okay? The top of the prop, you'll be able to tell because it has some lettering on top of the prop. That's the top or the front of the propeller. So the front of the propeller always goes in the direction of flight. So this is the front on mine, so it's going to go this way. It's meant to go this way on the plane. Okay. If the plane were even if the plane had the motor out front, the front of the prop would still go towards the direction of flight. So for a quadcopter, it goes facing up, right? But for a plane, it goes facing forward, whether it's in the back or in the front. Okay, so we know which direction the prop is meant to spin. It's meant to spin this way in this case. And the top is this. This is the top or the front. So it needs to go on the motor in this orientation. Okay. I'm not going to put it on yet. We never put props on with batteries in the classroom until we're like ready to fly, which I'm not quite ready to fly yet. I don't want to chop up all these wires right here either. Okay. But now I have my receiver plugged in. Everything's plugged in. So I can go ahead and I can spin my motor a little bit. Okay, you need to get a piece of tape or something to tape on there to see which direction the motor's spinning. Okay, I need my motor to spin basically this way. Okay, so if we're looking at it from the back, it'd be counterclockwise. From the front, it'd be clockwise, but I need to spin that way. So if my motor's spinning that way, we're in good shape. It is. Okay, be careful when you're putting your finger on the motor like me. I just jam my finger a little bit there. That's why you can use a piece of tape and just visualize how it spins as well. But I can kind of feel with my finger it's spinning the right way, so that's good. But if it was spinning the wrong way, all I have to do, let me unplug the battery here, and I'm going to flip over, take my ESC to motor cables here. So I have these three cables. Let me zoom in a little bit here. These three cables here. And it doesn't matter which two I switch, I just switch any two of the three. So I'd say it's the top two. I'm just going to unplug those two, so like so. Try to be careful with it, you don't break the wires or something. It's just kind of a tight fit there. Take this one and this one, okay? They're like this. I'm just going to switch them so I put them in the opposite position. That makes sense. Okay? And that would change my motor direction so that it spun the other way, which would be matching whatever prop I had. So once your motor is spinning the right way, I double check I didn't accidentally switch mine up here. It should be spinning, in this case with this prop, in this direction. Okay. Yep, that's spinning the right way. So I'm going to go ahead and unplug it now. I don't need to do that anymore or use that anymore for right now. And my transmitter is getting upset with me. I'm going to zoom back out. Okay, so now I can take all these extra wires, okay, and I can fish them through into the body of the plane. You know, it's kind of a mass of wires in there. There's not a whole lot we can do about that just because it's hard to get our fingers in there to actually do any of this organization. We can kind of pull through from the other side with the ESC and get the wires tucked up in there. Try to keep them away from the receiver if you can. That's going to be better for electromagnetic interference and stuff like that. Shouldn't have to worry too much about that, but better to not have the motor wires running right on top of the receiver if we can help it. As I pull the wires all the way through, there's plenty of extra slack here. I like to have it nice and snug back here. We're going to tape over this so that the wires don't come out and get into the prop while we're flying, but better to have all the motors pulled toward the front anyways. Okay. Up here we can kind of double them over on themselves and stick them back under there a little bit. There we go. Okay, and I put some Velcro on my ESC here as well as my receiver that's already Velcroed in so I can stick the ESC to the side of the plane here. I'll stick it in there like that, and then I'll be ready to go. I have my battery lead right here, so if I pop my battery in, pop it in right there, boom, plug it in, tuck it in, and ready to fly. Okay, and so I'm not going to put my prop on right now. We already know that it works, so I'll put that on before I fly it, but make sure you have your prop. Okay, as well as the either the spinner piece that came with your motor, that little triangular, let's see, kind of conical shaped piece. You need to either have that with you to tighten down on the motor, okay, and tighten down on the motor and tighten the prop down. Make sure it's not going to come off. Okay, so you can use that if you want, but I prefer to use something called a nylock nut. Let me grab that real quick. Okay, and so this little nut is just like a normal nut except it has a nylon collar in there, and so when you tighten it onto the motor shaft, after a certain point it starts to feel kind of hard to twist on. You need to use a wrench, of course, and that will kind of lock itself onto the prop shaft, keeping the prop tight. Again, no Loctite on the motor shaft. Okay, so that's that last step there. Okay, all right, so we have our wire management. We'll take care of that. I'm not going to show that out to you all on camera, just gluing these servo wires down. We have our cable management with our motor, getting our motor spin the right direction. Okay, tucking everything up in here. We're going to seal that off with some tape. Just some packing tape is fine. Kind of wrap a band around there once you have everything tucked in. That way nothing can get out into the propeller. Okay, and then some other finishing touches on the plane that you may or may not be interested in doing to allow the foam board to last longer. Okay, all these edges, okay, so every kind of edge like this where the paper's exposed there, it's easy for the paper to flap off. You can actually see that, I think. Or was it on mine? Oh, on this side here. Okay, so you can see that paper is already starting to kind of flap off. Sorry, it's not focusing very well. Right there. Okay, so to prevent that from happening in the first place, what we can do, I'll just show you on, let's see, I'll show you on the top here actually because it'll be easier to see for the camera. But the same premise for all these different things. Show you on one of these ones right here. See how it's kind of open there? What you can do is get your scrap piece of foam again. And grab your hot glue gun. Go and do a bead along the edge of the foam, we'll say. And we just want to get a nice light bead, nothing too crazy. I'm going to glue there part way. And I'm off camera now too, I need to zoom out. And then we'll take our piece of foam and we will just kind of run it along that edge. And it kind of seals the edge of the foam in there. And you would do that on pretty much every edge that's on your plane. So edge here, an edge on here, on the back of the aileron. Make sure you don't glue the aileron or elevator in place. We don't want to prevent them from moving, but all the edges can be done. And then on the leading edge of the plane, you can do something similar. You can there's two sides to it, but you can run a bead of glue along there and kind of squeegee it off. Run a bead of glue along here and then squeegee it off. Get a nice protected leading edge so it doesn't break so easily or get torn up by the grass and things like that when you're landing the plane. Okay, there's our finishing touches on that foam. As far as these foam squares for your plane itself, we remember that we talked about this a little bit earlier, but we have a larger piece It's going to go up here in the nose, okay, of the plane. So this piece, you're just going to glue a little bit right here and place that piece right there to kind of cover up the nose of the plane. All right. We're going to take this rectangular piece and glue it at the very back of the pod. And then the center piece here is going to be kind of like a little hatch. So we're not actually going to glue this one in. Once we've glued these pieces on, we're going to just tape this to this, and that way it has like a little tape hinge, and we can open it, put the battery in, whatever, close it back down, and then we're good to go. It kind of can tuck in between the two sides of the pod, so like a little hatch there. So don't glue this piece in, just glue these two on. I'm not going to do that quite yet. I have a couple other things I want to tweak on the plane perhaps before I do that, but those are the finishing pieces of the plane, and you've used all the foam parts at that point. All right. I think that we've covered everything you need to know to build this plane and get it operational. The last thing I'm going to show you in this video, I have one more video after this talking about the transmitter and the controls for the plane, but last thing I'm going to show you in this video is your battery. Okay, so your battery will be this size. I mean, you can buy your own the different size, but this is the size we have for you to use in the program. Okay, and it's going to sit somewhere right in here. Okay, all of our batteries have the fuzzy side of Velcro on them, so you're going to want to grab some of this Velcro stuff I showed you earlier, get some of the scratchy stuff, and just lay down a piece right here on that foam. Okay. If it rips off easily, sometimes, well, with this foam actually, before we put the Velcro on, we should put some tape on it because the kind of water-resistant coating of the foam makes it so the Velcro doesn't stick very well. So before you put the Velcro down, actually just put a piece of tape right here on the foam, and then put the Velcro on the tape. Okay. Your battery will then be able to stick right in there. Should be good to go. If you would like to, you can also add a slot, okay, either in the sides perhaps, or going down underneath, and you can run a strap, like a battery strap of this type, like a kind of a buckle strap, that would go around your battery, you know, and be going through the foam there, and then that would help you to strap your battery down so it can't go anywhere when it's in flight. Okay, again, that would just mean you cut a couple little notches, kind of one on each side here, here and here, so the strap can run down and around and back up, and then you can strap your battery into the plane as well as having the Velcro that it just sticks on right there. Okay. The advantage of that is the battery hopefully won't move as much if you crash. Typically, if you crash, the battery is going to kind of get launched forward and can run into the nose of the plane, can damage the battery. We want to avoid that as much as possible, and so you can add a strap if you'd like, but at a minimum we need some Velcro in here to hold the battery in place so it's not moving around while we're flying. And that brings me to that point of the center of gravity. Okay, so the battery is going to be around right here, and to get our center of gravity of our plane, once all the pieces are on and everything's where it's supposed to be, we'll put our battery in, we'll flip the plane over. So on these little marks here, little cross pieces, you're gonna basically balance the plane, try to balance the plane with your fingertip on the center of those marks. So a little bit hard to show on camera, but I'm going to try to approximate it. So I'm going to use my fingertips here on the bottom of the plane on those two marks. And what I want the plane to do is balance either a little bit nose heavy or exactly even along those two balance points. If it goes tail heavy like it is right now, then I need to move the battery forward. Okay, if it's nose heavy, I need to move the battery back. Okay, and so we can kind of see, I think I'm on the balance points right now. I can't see them. It's on the underside. About right there. Okay, so I'm too nose heavy right now. It's tipping down on me. So the battery, once you find the spot where the battery should be, you can mark it with a pencil or something. So that way you can not have to balance it every single time. You kind of have a good approximation. So that's pretty good right there. It's balancing on my fingertips more or less, about level, maybe a little bit nose heavy. We'd rather have nose heavy than tail heavy. And so that could be a place where I mark with a marker. Say the battery goes right about here. You want to double check it before you fly, but at least you don't have to fiddle with it for 5 minutes every time you change your battery. Okay, there's our plane, 95% ready to fly, ready to give it a throw and have some fun. All right, the last video I'm going to cover the setup on the transmitter, and then we'll be finished with this.